Hi, welcome to the next episode of the South Texas Power Lunch. I'm Matt Duke, and I am super excited here for 2025. This is our first podcast here of the new year. We've been super busy, lots of transactions that have been closing at the end of the year and the beginning of this year, but we're back here with our 60th episode here today. And we're excited to announce that we have expanded here at the South Texas Business Lawyers. And I've got our new attorney here, Connor, who is here with us here today. And for this episode, I wanted to talk about really just talk with Connor about the practice of law and what inspired him to become a lawyer. We're going to talk a little bit about the military background that you've got, but just so that way you can get to know, us, our firm, and what we do. Connor, I'm so excited to have you here. You as a law clerk, which we'll get into, you got to see us doing these, but now you're on one, man. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I'm happy to be here. I mean, it's crazy because I was there for the first one. So I've seen
Man, you were here for the first one?
59 podcasts, and here I am on number 60.
He was the first person that liked an actual podcast that we had before anybody knew. That's crazy. So that would be, 3 years ago?
3 years ago, over next to the Alamo Dome.
Wow. All right, well, let's start with everybody getting to know you. And it's funny because I told my kids I was doing this weekend, and they were like, Dad, don't ask him stupid questions like you did us when we came on. So I'm not going to ask you what your favorite Disney character is, I promise.
Okay.
But let's talk about just your background so that way people get to know you a little bit. So went to undergrad at the schools whose name I won't speak right now. But where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to undergrad at
I bet that people could guess right now if they could see.
University of Texas at Austin.
You and you Ohio State people. Yeah. We don't say the University
of Alabama. We don't talk about Ohio State either. So. Not this year.
You guys just buy your own, teams. I've been buying them for much longer, but oh well. So you went to the University of Texas, which my son is, probably heading that direction. It's a great school. What degree did you get?
Yeah, so my undergrad, it was a communications degree. It was a bachelor's of science in public relations, which Stan Richards at the time, he's the one that did Got Milk, the big ad agency out of Dallas. They also did Eat More Chicken for Chick-fil-A. My degree as well.
Pretty simplistic messages, right? What's the next one he's going to do? Pistachios or something?
I don't know.
Eat pistachios.
But his ad agency, when I was at the school, bought the communication school and moved the degrees of public relations and advertising into that school. Because that was his big thing.
Wow.
So there are two bachelors of sciences that are usually in business schools. So I have public relations, and my wife, Brenna, who I met there, she has an advertising degree, both from that school.
But the advertising was in the communications?
Yes.
Okay, not in the business school.
Not in the business school.
See, I have a marketing undergrad, and it was in the business school. That's interesting. I think it was under communications at Alabama when we were there. I'm pretty sure it was. Well, so you've got a communications, PR, that sort of background. Why law school?
So law school, unlike a lot of attorneys, that's their plan for a really long time. I had a Pell Grant to do my undergrad. And with the Pell Grant, you had to have a student work position. So I went in on Thursday. That's the day for ROTC that we had to wear our uniforms. Had to go into the work study job fair. And the first gentleman standing there, he was setting up his table. He's in a hat, older gentleman. He's like, you know what? You look like a really good candidate. Why don't you come interview with me? And I don't have to set up and you don't have to walk around. I was like, you know what? That's a great deal. Set it up with him. He was the director of the legal services for students at the University of Texas. His name was Raymond Shiflett. So when interviewed with him, loved him, and that's how I ended up starting to work in the field of law. Got to work with a bunch of students over 3 years, and the attorneys there really encouraged me to explore law school. So I took the LSAT and got a scholarship at St. Mary's and kind of fell into it from there.
Wow, I didn't know that. What kind of stuff did you do for students at UT?
So interestingly, it's very similar to what we do for the small business owners, but it's all of the stuff that the students find themselves in that come in, mainly civil, sign multiple leases, credit card debt. Some started a business, didn't mean to, student housing issues, apartment issues, trying to move from out of state into in-state, trying to get their residency in-state, all of those different things.
Interesting. Any criminal stuff?
So we would see the criminal stuff and then refer it out because the school didn't want to have to represent any student criminally.
That's fascinating there. I don't know that I guess that was available at Alabama. I don't know that was the case. I still have never come upon that in dealing with a bunch of stuff. Wow. Okay. So You got into it. You enjoyed. What aspect did you enjoy the most?
So I'm very service mindset. I've been in the military since high school, actually. And this was the first time outside of the military that I really got to serve people and use a lot of the skills that I have other than having to be in the military and do it. So I loved when people came in, and to them, it was the end of the world. They're like, I signed 3 leases. I can't get out of 2. I have no money. I'm a student. I need help. I need help, or I can't go to school. I won't get a job, and then my life's over.
Right.
Every day, dozens of students would come in with that kind of story. And we can be like, hey, relax. It's okay. We can solve it and help you. And then they get to learn something. We get to help them, and we get to move forward with that.
Now, did you have law students that were also a part of that, like to serve that as a clinic as well? So you got to interact with actually, 1Ls,
Yes.
2Ls, 3Ls?
Yes. So for the legal services for students, while I was there, our law clerks were all 3Ls.
Okay, nice. So you were learning from them too as they were.
Yeah.
You also learned they didn't know much about the law at that time.
They didn't know much about the law. A lot of them, when they got to the 3L, the bar is becoming real to them.
Right.
So I got to see them in a very stressful aspect of their life. But I got a lot of advice from them saying, hey, you've done 3 years of law school. Would you recommend it? Like, do you want to do it? And it's probably 50-50 split said, absolutely not. Don't do this. And then the other 50 was like, if this is something you truly want to do, we think you'd excel in it. And it's a very rewarding career.
Interesting. I won't say whether I'll recommend it or not, but probably some people could guess because I've talked a lot about it. Let's talk about your military career. Thank you for your service. That's one of the things when I first met you, man, 3 years ago, of course that stood out, just like you said with, the gentleman you were saying earlier. But talk about your military service, just so that way people know, because it is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your support, by the way. The firm is very, very flexible with as crazy as the National Guard can be. I enlisted at 17 in high school because I needed a way to pay for college.
Right.
My dad was in the reserves. His dad was full-time Air Force, and that's how they paid for school.
Okay.
So at 17, I enlisted to hopefully get the GI Bill. When I was a senior, I got an ROTC scholarship.
Okay.
So I got to put my enlisted contract on hold and go and do ROTC at the University of Texas. Completed my ROTC and then commissioned into the National Guard as a field artillery officer. After I graduated undergrad, I took a year to do my officer training.
Okay.
Came back, was planning to start law school, and then COVID happened. So my first activation, I got activated for COVID. Did that for about 4.5 months. Since COVID kind of died down as fast as it started, for the military at least, they let me off of those orders to start law school.
Okay.
So I started law school, did my 3 years of law school, got 2 small activations during law school for SNOVID, our winter weather package for the state, as well as a civil disturbance during all of the political turmoil. And then as soon as I finished law school, right after taking the bar, my unit got activated to go overseas. So this last year in 2024, I got to spend a year in Europe and Eastern Europe in support of Operation Atlantic Resolve.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you're a young guy, and the amount of experience and exposure to a diversity of, things is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And what's interesting is because I can piece in together, so Connor's been with us here for 3 years. We have law clerks. In fact, we're going to start interviewing for law clerks here this summer. And for me, I started off kind of the career path for people may not know is, you go to law school and they don't teach you how to be a lawyer. No, they teach you how to start thinking like a lawyer. They start teaching you fundamental blocks of the principles of law. But when you get out of law school, I mean, unless you think otherwise, well, maybe you do because of the experience you've got, you don't really know how to be a lawyer. You just know enough about the law to be dangerous, to be honest with you, to yourself and others. Law clerks come on and get real-time experience. I was a law clerk in my 1L year, which is the first year of law school. I did a law clerk in my 2L year, 3L year. You're studying for the bar. You don't work anywhere, and then you start your job, and that's sort of the path that goes on. And the reality is, there's not a lot of opportunities for 1Ls, and the reason for that is that you don't have many building blocks at that point in time. But interesting enough, the story to tell is we put out that we were looking for law clerks, and a 1L at that time sent his resume in, had a lot of great diversity of experience, was clearly smart. And I decided when I met Connor that I would say, okay, I'll go ahead and and hire a 1L student who didn't know much about the law at that point in time, but was really, really open to that. What was that experience like for you coming in literally after 1L? Probably not that different now that you had been at UT, right? But what was that like?
So coming as a 1L, I did have the benefit of a little bit of experience behind me. I got to work in a pseudo law firm at the university for 3 years. I got my paralegal certificate while I was at UT, so I got to experience a little bit closer to what a student would be to an actual legal professional. And I was also getting my MBA. So I had somewhat of a background, at least what I thought, walking into a business firm, like, okay, I think I'm at least competent enough to know what's going on.
Right.
And then I came in, I had no idea. I had no idea.
What was the biggest surprise back then for you that you're like, whoa, I didn't know about that?
I don't know if I didn't know about it, but it really hit me that as attorneys, we have to find the answer.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, I don't know. Go ask somebody else. They ask, your client comes to you and asks you a question, and then you have to find the answer and stand on it.
That's true. I mean, and you know what, that's the way you practice, to be honest with you. In my opinion, and you've always bought into this, and I know that you'll continue to buy into it. We are an advisor, right? But as an advisor, we can't just go, well, here you go. Here's
Right.
You asked a question, here's an answer. Best of luck to you. It's not the way it works. Our job is to advise as to, okay, based upon your totality of your situation, here are your options. Here's the risk of this option. Here's the risk of that option. Here's where that is. And that usually helps a lot of people move through. But then you do, as you've seen then, and you probably even see now, right? Then people go, well, what would you do?
Right.
That we don't do, right? Because at the end of the day, we advise, we want to be a trusted advisor, but we can't make the call because it's not us
Exactly.
to do that. But we can't also just say, I don't know, when it comes to all those options. So that makes sense to me.
And then even in law school, your professors and all of your students, they could say it could be argued this, or it could go left or right, up or down. But it's up to the judge to decide. And then coming into practice, we have to weigh all of those options as well as, well, this is what the client wants. Even if it, from our opinion, you're going to lose. They're like, well, that's what I want. And we have to
Which you've been a part of that, where people were like, hey, I think we're going to lose, and they want to keep going. And,
Right.
That is the decisions that clients can make. So yeah, it can be a real shocker coming into that. The other thing, and this kind of points to this, that I'm sure you've seen, is there really is no wrong answer.
Right.
In law school, what I saw, and I'm sure you did too, is that, there was debate. And then at the end of the day, sometimes, you'd lean more way on the other, but rarely did they go, oh, that was a debate. You won, you lost. Now, moot court, different, right? But in just the general practice of law and interpretation and figuring out how to work through situations, really is no right answer, and even what you're 99.9% is sure, a judge may see as the other way and
Absolutely.
find you, to be different on that. Talk a little bit about your curriculum that you had in the JD MBA program. How was that experience for you?
So I loved the experience. It was very cool that St. Mary's University is where I went to law school, that they allowed 9 of your hours to transfer both ways. So it was 18 total hours. And that's when I went through the program. They might have amended it since then. But it was really cool that as I was in the business classes, a lot of the students, just general law students, maybe it's the St. Mary's population, they don't have business backgrounds at all. They come from mainly liberal arts degrees or philosophy or something like that. So it's really hard for them to comprehend not just learning the legal aspect of something, but also there's dollars and cents behind these decisions that need to be made. So getting to have the MBA at the same time and refine those skills and think about all of the financial statements and, hey, this legal decision we're making, it's going to have a financial impact. Or if you understand the financial impact, you can phrase it differently in the legal language to achieve what your client wants.
It's interesting because the reality is almost all of law is financial. Even constitutional law has economics, so the philosophy and English majors I saw, just FYI for those that are thinking through that, they really struggled, because of the fact they couldn't wrap their brains around torts and contracts, which those are economics, right? Those that had economics degrees, I thought did those are the ones that you could tell did really well. And then those that had business degrees in the joint MBA, that was something to see on there. What was your favorite class in law school?
My favorite class was mergers and acquisitions. And I mean, it had a slight bias to, because I took it my senior or my 3L year, which is the senior year. I took it after having 2.5 years of experience here.
Right.
So I really could understand what was going on. It was exciting to realize, hey, what we're doing here is actually something that's taught in a class, and I know what we're talking about. It was exciting to be part of that.
Well, and that's my philosophy too. I mean, my philosophy is, because I experienced this. So I have a JD MBA from Alabama. I got to go for my 1L and 2L, and it was wine and dine, which was very nice to be wined and dined, to come as being, a top student there. But the practical aspects of that, I didn't really get, and nobody did. And that actually was, you were my test case, and that proves my test case is right, is if you can get some practical experience while you're in law school, then you can really reinforce it and come out, which I would say you know more than, for sure, first year and probably most second year associates at big firms, because they haven't gotten that kind of experience, to do, all right, a purchase agreement. I remember the very first time I ever saw a asset purchase agreement, I was brought a binder. It was about that thick. And it was, basically a treatise on breaking it down. And I literally read the entire thing within 2 weeks. Still didn't know what the heck it was. Yeah. Because I'd never used it, right? Versus, what you've gotten here. So, the reason I say all this is, Connor's experience is very atypical, but at the same time, I think it benefits you in helping our clients today, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's a huge benefit. And I mean, if I could redo how law school is structured, I would almost require one else having to have that practical experience.
It would be great. I don't think law schools are set up. Most law schools, unfortunately, are not set up that way. So I don't see the ABA doing that. And they've got clinics that are out there, but those clinics tend to go to social needs, which is great. I mean, I did a nonprofit clinic and set up a nonprofit corporation, when I was in law school, but they tend to be more public, community-faced, things that are out there. What are you most excited about, here now being, at the firm? What excites you the most?
The most exciting part about the firm and just being out of school generally is I get to focus on one thing. I get to
sort of. You still have the military thing.
Right, the military thing, but for the military at least, it's not like law school. You have 5-6 classes at one time. You're reading 5-6 textbooks, having to jump between all the different subjects and different things, and it's really surface level.
Right.
Just enough to be dangerous, like you said, about each of those subjects. Versus now, I get to really drill down on the business law, the transactions, what we're doing here, and get that deeper knowledge and understanding.
Let's talk a little bit about trusts and estates, because that's one of the things that you're bringing here to help us expand in what we do. Why do you think that trusts and wills are so important to business people?
I think they're important to all people, but specifically business people, because you have another asset that most other people don't have, and it's a specialized asset. It's your business. It's unique to you. And depending on how you built and structured that business, it might not move in the same ways in your estate plan that your other assets will.
And people don't realize, until they're gone, well, they don't realize, but other people around you won't realize what happens to a business until you're gone. And buy-sell agreements, which are buzzwords that are out there, if you don't understand how those actually work in connection with your will and any trust you may have, those that you love may actually end up with a mess, because you haven't actually connected all the dots to have a comprehensive plan. And I'm excited about you coming on to help us, really expand all of those type of services, because, business owners, as you've seen, right, there's a lot that they're constantly doing. They sometimes don't dot the I's and cross the T's to ensure that everything's right. And so I'm excited to have you here to do that. My other question to you is, you've been here with us 3 years. You've worked on a lot of different transactions with us here. What do you think is one of the common issues or common aha moments for our clients that are new to transactions when they start to work with us? How did you see that?
What I saw frequently was most of our clients, so I put our clients in 2 categories. The ones that come to us before they've started anything, or the ones that have started and be like, oh crap, I need an attorney to look at this stuff.
Right.
Those 2 camps. And then they kind of each end up merging at the point to where it's, I wish I would have structured it differently, or thankfully I structured it this way because as we grow so fast, you have to make those decisions quickly on the business side that have the legal ramifications. And if you need to get your corporate documents in order, that takes time, which slows down your business decisions. And depending on your investors or what you're trying to do, those opportunities might be time bound and now you've missed them.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. The other thing too, with that is you usually don't realize that it's an issue until it becomes a major issue.
Right.
Which
And
you've seen, in multiple transactions, even this year that, we've had to address to say, wow, I went and did it on LegalZoom and thought everything was good until things weren't good. And then you pull the documents, go, ooh, actually things are bad,
Yeah.
And checking the box. Legal, one of the things I'm sure you saw in law school was, it's not just forms, right? We do use forms, you've been familiarized with some of the forms we do, but we don't use the same, we don't have the same transaction every single time because every single deal is different. And 80% of it may be very, very, very similar, but that other 20%, as you've seen and you've learned and continue to learn, makes the difference.
Absolutely.
If there's any sort of issue, that 20% is usually what is the most valuable part that a lawyer brings.
And I think that's the most exciting part about what we do is it's not the same thing every day. And I think it'd be unfair to say or expect that all these small business owners should know the legal aspects that we know. We're trained to know it. They're not. They're specialists in their business and what they love to do. So I think it might be an unfair lens put on a lot of business owners like, hey, you should have done this legally. Well, they didn't know, and that's not their fault. So I like that your platform and the firm's platform is let's educate them and advise them so that they can be better prepared for tomorrow rather than punish them for, oh, you should have known this. It's going to be expensive to fix it.
Yeah, it never makes me feel good to have to tell somebody that how much it's going to cost to fix something that we could have fixed. It actually, it's one of the worst things I get to do to tell people because, we're not about just running up a legal bill. We want to provide value. Well, Connor, I can't tell you how excited we are. We are so excited to have you here. As you can see, Connor is extremely bright, with, well over 3 years of experience, with the firm and with dealing with these. Connor will be here helping us continue our mission, which is to educate, support, and advise every small business owner and founder in the state of Texas. And look for him on our social media. If there's anything that we can do, reach out to us so that way we can help you with your legal needs. And we're excited about 2025 and all of the things that are going on here and on the podcast. And we'll see y'all soon.